What's up, people? This is Tsuki Shinwa, and you're watching me do stuff. This is the second part of my fanfics, and it's a bit different than the last one in the case of my writing style. There's more action in it. It's set back in the 1400s. Anyways, it's still about Tsuki, but in this she has not become a vampire yet. And if you have read the description in my last video, then you would know that she is a demon angel werewolf vampire. And if you have not watched the last video, you shouldn't be watching this. Spoilers. Come on, people. Come on. But, enough of my rambling. Let's get on with the show. It was near 11 at night in Tsuki's one-story house in Transylvania. She was talking with Liliana, her best friend. "Tsuki, why don't you go to the ball? It'll be fun. You might even find yourself someone special," Liliana begged Tsuki. Tsuki scoffed. "Because I hate parties. Everyone just stares at me." Liliana sighs. "And that's because you're so beautiful." "Tsuki, come on. I can't go by myself. What if I get kidnapped?" "Willie, you won't get kidnapped," Tsuki says with a laugh. Then suddenly there was a knock at the door of Tsuki's one-story house. Who could be knocking at this hour? Tsuki got up to answer it. An old man around 60 years stood there. "Good evening, madam. I'm Halt, the butler of Count Dracula. He sends you this." Halt gives Tsuki the letter. "My lord asks that you give the contents some thought." Halt bows. "Good night, madam." Then, with that, Halt left. Tsuki was in shock and confused. What was that all about? Wonder what this is. Tsuki closed the door, looking at the unopened letter. Liliana walked over to Tsuki. "So, what does it say?" Tsuki opens the letter. It said, "Dear Lady Chinois, I am Count Vlad Dracula. The annual ball is tomorrow. I know for a fact that you do not have an escort. I will be delighted to escort you there. If you agree to go, then I will be waiting outside the Grand Hall. You'll know me when you see me. Forever yours, the Count." Liliana was jumping for joy. "Do you know who he is, Tsuki?" "No, and I don't care," Tsuki said, crumbling the letter up and throwing it on the floor. Not paying any attention to Tsuki's answer. "The Count is the most handsome man in all of Europe. He's charming and interesting. Why don't you go with him? You'll have fun. You need to go live your life and not be locked up in here forever." "Please, Tsuki." Tsuki sighs. "Fine, I'll go with him. But if things start to get weird, you'd better get me out of there. Got it?" Liliana's smile grew wider. "Got it." And she launched herself to hug Tsuki. "I can't believe I got talked into doing this," Tsuki said as she was putting on makeup. "Because you're my best friend ever, and you're interested in what will happen," said Liliana, also putting makeup on. Tsuki shakes her head. Yes to the first part, no to the second. Liliana hugs her friend. "You know you're excited." Then there was a knock at the door. "Ugh, what now?" Tsuki said as she answered the door. And there was Halt. He was holding a dark blue and silver dress. He bows. "Hello again, madam. My master asked me to give you these." He hands her the dress and a silver mask with blue spikes on the sides. "Have a wonderful evening." He bowed and left. Liliana closed the door, and at the same time they both exclaimed, "Wow," while they looked at the dress. "Okay, now I have to go if he spends this kind of money on me," Tsuki said as she stared at the dress. They both got dressed quickly, eager to get to the ball. When they got there, Liliana asked, "Do you want me to wait until you find him? Or... No, you go on ahead. I'll find you inside," Tsuki said, still looking for the Count. "Okay then, be careful," Liliana said as she left her friend to search. Tsuki looked and looked for the Count, but couldn't find him. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she spotted him. He was a tall man with sleek, long black hair. He was wearing a dark red shirt, black pants and jacket, a black tie, with a red mask trimmed with black. Like Williana said, he was very handsome. He was watching Tsuki intensely, with a half-evil, half-lustful smile. She walked up to him. Her heart was beating a mile a minute. "Count?" she asked. "Correct you are, my beautiful rose," Vlad said in a deep, sensual voice, as he grabbed her hand and kissed it gently. His lips were soft like silk, yet cold like ice. He then led her into the hall. It was a very tall, expansive building made of marble and stone. Tables lined the outside edge of the hall, leaving the center for the dance area. All the time they walked, Vlad kept his eyes on Tsuki, never leaving her for an instant. "You look stunning in that dress," he said, leading her to the table at the back. "Well, you're the one who picked it out for me," Tsuki smiled at him. She looked into his eyes. They were deep red, the color of his shirt. She found herself lost in them. As the ball began, he asked her to dance. They got up and walked to the dance floor. As the music started, Vlad put his right hand on Tsuki's waist, grabbing her right hand in his left. She placed her left hand on his shoulder. As they started to dance, Tsuki could feel his eyes on her. After a while, they started to chat. They stayed that way till near the end of the ball. He then suddenly pulled her close to him, to where their bodies touched. "Tsuki, let us leave this place and go to my castle," Vlad said as he led her outside. Outside there was a carriage waiting for them. Halt opened the door for them, and they climbed in. Vlad sat across Tsuki, who was just looking at the ground. They stayed like this for the whole ride. The only time Tsuki looked up was when Vlad said, "We are arriving at my castle." She saw a large castle on top of a cliff. It and the forest around it looked pale in the full moonlight. The entrance was enormous, but as they went further in, it seemed to get even bigger. "Wow!" was all Tsuki could say. Vlad laughed. "Yes, it's quite magnificent. Would you like to see the place I like the most?" She looked at him with a smile. "Yes, please." And she follows him into a library. It was dark, only lit by a large fireplace. The walls were lined with books. There was only one chair by the fire. "Please, have a seat." Vlad motions for Tsuki to have a seat. "Halt! Bring tea." Halt bowed and backed away, and left. Tsuki sat while Vlad stood behind the chair, and after a while he started to play with her hair. He also brushed his cold fingers along the back of her neck. This gave Tsuki goosebumps. She started to blush at his touch, and Vlad knew it too. He went around to the front of the chair. Tsuki stood out of compulsion, but he pinned her down to the chair. He places the back of his hand on her cheek. He leaned in while saying, "Tell me, my dear, what do you see when you look into my eyes? Anger? Intrigue? Lust?" He went for a kiss. Tsuki closed her eyes. Then, as their lips were nearly touching, there was a crash outside. Vlad pulled away, standing, looking to a window. "Now of all times!" he said with a pissed look on his face. Tsuki got up from the chair and walked over to him. "What is it? What happened?" Vlad turned to leave. "Stay here. Do not go outside." He left, leaving the door wide open. Tsuki quickly went after him. She saw him turn to the left, so she followed suit. She arrived at large glass doors. She saw him just standing there, but in front of him was a large dark figure. It was 3 times his size. There was a heavy scent of blood. Then she realized a wolf scent. The large figure was a werewolf. In the blink of an eye, the fight had begun. Suki then saw the true face of the Count. She stared in awe of the vampire before her. Then the werewolf started to speak.
I have no business with you, vampire.
It snarled. The Count looked puzzled. Then who are you after? Suki started to growl. She was starting to transform. The wolf looked at her through the glass doors. The Count turned around to look where his enemy was looking. He saw Suki, his eyes wide. She then jumped through the glass. She had wings. The left was of a demon, the right of an angel. She had a tail, ears, and arm were that of a werewolf. Her eyes were different colors. The left was silver and the right blue, and both colors were pure. She had a vertical scar over her left eye. The Count stood in awe.
What are you?
He asked her. Before she could answer, the werewolf said,
She is a werewolf, demon angel. She has run away from her responsibilities, so she must die.
I will not let that happen. Vlad launches himself at the werewolf, but before he got to it, a blur passed him. It was Suki. She was slashing and hacking at the guarding werewolf, making blood go everywhere. But as she and the beast fought, Suki made a tiny mistake, a deadly one. She was too slow to react, so the werewolf slashes into her, creating a fatal wound. She fell to the ground at Vlad's feet. Looking up at him with clouded eyes, she said, I'm sorry. This made him furious. The Count released his full wrath on the werewolf, killing it in a few seconds. Covered in blood, Vlad returns to the near-dead Suki. She had bled out a lot. He held her for a few moments, and then said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You weren't supposed to get hurt. Suki, do you wish to die? She shook her head. She couldn't form words, so she mouthed her answer. No, I want to live. He had tears in his eyes. Then I shall make you one of my own. He bent down, still holding her, close to her neck. He licked it, and then said, Suki, I love you. Sinking his fangs into her neck, making a trickle of blood flow down. Now she was one like him, one of the undead, a vampire. Well, that's all for now, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like and comment down below. And if you have some suggestions or questions, feel free to message me, or you can find me on Twitter at WolfWarrior999. And once again, this has been Suki Chinois, and I'll see you whenever.